without doubt, I think it's by far the best league in England.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League?
Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of ASTV's Premier League Show. We are on match week 11. I can't believe we are already 11 weeks in to this craziness. Speaking of craziness, normally we throw it to Bickler at this point, which is crazy in itself that we allow him to be a co-host or guest on any program. But with us tonight, filling in for the Bickler as he is off on a work trip or pretending to be working somewhere across the United States, is our esteemed leader, Timucin. How are you, my friend?
Not too shabby. Bickler is the guy who lives under a bridge. Sure has a lot of business trips. So I don't know about that. But no, it's great to be here. Good time. A great couple of weeks of Premier League action here. Could not have been any better for us Liverpool fans, at least. So
100%. And as we prepare to record our 300th podcast of the Monday Night Podcast tonight, later on, I thought it was fitting we would wear our Liverpool jerseys and hats and shirts. We are going to come full. We're going to come full tilt tonight. We're going to be real, and we are not even going to pull any punches or hide anything. There might be a little bit of a Liverpool-centric flow to tonight's Premier League show, and we don't normally do that. As much as I'd like to talk about the matches, look at the table, I don't think you could start a Premier League show today without talking about arguably the biggest story to come out of the Premier League, which happens to just drop Liverpool and their former manager, Jurgen Klopp, in my opinion, right back into the forefront of everything English. And that is, so I'll start with the question. Timucin, is this the end of David Coote in the Premier League?
it should be. I mean, it really should be. Honestly, when I first saw it this morning, as I was getting ready for the morning coffee show, it was like somebody had posted in the Discord. And I didn't even initially bring it up on the show because I was not sure if it was legit. And I was like, dude, that has to be a lookalike or something. Like just watching it, it just did not feel like it could be real. It just was so out there that I thought it could not be real. But I'll tell you this, aside from, I'm sure, PJMOL, and I know he already said it's not true, blah, blah, blah. But, there are ways to find out those. But I had not even thought of this until in the morning, like Matush, I think is the one who brought it up. It's not only like Klopp and Liverpool and stuff. The fact that he put the German in there, it also gives like a negative vibe. Mind you, in a country where the coach, the national team coach is German now as well. But I did not even hear it like that. But we talked about it on the show. I can kind of see that angle, and there could be, some German players are like, what the hell kind of a thing. Because it almost sounded like him being a German is part of the problem, the way he said it. But I mean, that would be only like a side story. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand how you can have this guy ref a game afterwards of Liverpool, of a game that impacts Liverpool, whatever the case might be, and talk about integrity afterwards. I think that ship has sailed. Maybe like dump him down to Championship or something like that, but I just don't see him in the Premier League.
Yeah, I actually think it goes even, and I understand where you and Matush are coming from with the German side, because I think the whole xenophobe type of mentality of like the national and how it was a foreign manager and the way he kind of even made a comment about it. The fact that he didn't just really rip on Liverpool, the club, he then kind of shit on Liverpool, the city.
Yes.
Which in my mind also means Everton has a reason to say, he might have something against us, this guy who grew up outside of Manchester that doesn't. So now you could literally argue it's not even like you can't have him ref any matches or be the match official for any matches at the top half of the table. You have to question the integrity of what he's doing when he's refereeing matches at the bottom of the table. And when you look back at the history of him in Liverpool, he and Klopp never saw eye to eye. Let's be real. And I think it happened long before the Van Dijk foul with Pickford, because everybody points to that moment. I can think of, I mean, you have the Burnley match where he calls the late penalty. You have the Tottenham match where he's one of the assistant VARs. He's in the room during good process, guys. Like he's
Yep. Like he somehow, like I know, like it was gonna happen, right? But he's in freaking everywhere.
And then he's in, and what people forget is he is the match official who doesn't call the handball against Rodri against Everton. When it literally could have given Liverpool a title and kept Everton up. And I think this is probably me going into like full, Cersei tin hat. That thing's
the
really
Odegaard
mean.
handball in the Arsenal game. Like there's so much that comes out, and I know there are people looking through every single game that he ref now, and there's going to be more probably coming out. But I just don't know how he can come back afterwards and be like, oh, okay, now he's going to be all fair. Like it's just not going to happen.
So, two things. I got to ask you this because you're a father. And you're a father of, and we'll, full disclosure, you've mentioned it before, and there's pictures behind your wall, behind your head, so I can say it. You're a father of two beautiful, smart young women, which I'm sure you have tried to protect every second of every moment and from bad decisions alike. Do you feel like in today's world with cell phones and videos and like, does there almost need to be an additional layer of stupidity knowledge given on the youth of America nowadays to like remind people that nothing you say or do that could be recorded or documented is safe? Because to me, this feels like a guy who must have been sitting on a couch with someone he thought was his mate, his best friend. Like, I guess I don't understand how anyone who had as much to lose as David Coote would ever sit down, as wasted as they are, as sober as they are, as frustrated as they are, and say those types of things. And the fact that there were two videos that were shared, and the second one is him going, we got to delete this video. And the only thing going through my mind is I would have had a whole nother attitude during the second video. When my brain went off, I would have literally been going for the phone to try to like smash it, break things. Like it wouldn't have been me begging for that video to be deleted. It would have been me negotiating, like, what do I need to do to get that video taken down? Like, I guess I bring it up as you as the parent because I know my friends say all the time, like their biggest fear is that their kids won't be smart enough in their young teenage and like informative years not to send something stupid, say something stupid. I mean, we see pro baseball players getting called out for rap lyrics on Twitter 8 years ago and now being deemed racist in 2024. Like, it never goes away. How can someone at this level fall for this type of mistake?
I honestly think the young generation is more aware that there are cameras on phones everywhere, to be honest with you, more than us, because we're not as used to it, right? Like that wasn't a thing for us for the longest time. And I mean, I know when I was, like in like retail, you're dealing with people, there's always that risk, right? You get buddy with people and you see them as, you start like making jokes and stuff like that. That might not be 100% appropriate, that if you just wouldn't make to a stranger, because they don't know you, they might take it the wrong way, but this person's not going to take you the wrong way because they know you, kind of a deal. But then you always run the risk of one, being taken out of context, and two, that you got to be careful what you say, regardless of how you think, oh, he's not going to take it like that because he knows me and stuff, because people can turn things on you when your relationship goes south. What you thought who was your friend and was like, oh, I know that was funny, you were just joking, is going to be like, oh, but you joking though, I thought you were serious, I was offended and stuff like that. So in this case, I honestly think, and if you look at the first video, this is a guy, if I was Coote, I would not call that guy my buddy or my mate, because it, to me, looks like they had a very high or smashed or both Coots on hands. Because if you notice, he eggs on the conversation. This is not like a natural conversation where like the guy says it. He specifically asks about Liverpool almost to get that on tape. And I almost feel like somebody wanted to take advantage of this, and God knows what they were doing all this time. Maybe God knows how many bets Coote had to pay off for them. I mean, there could be a lot more. This is me being paranoid. I'm putting that hat
No,
on, but there could
I'm
be a
not
lot
around.
of layers coming out to this. And because the second video, so who saw this video? I guess that's one of like the biggest questions that's going to come out. Who saw this video? Because the second video is addressed to the viewer, right? Hey, like we don't want to get his career derailed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then just fucking delete the old one. But no, like this was sent to a bunch of people initially. I'm not a Snapchat person, and I know how that stuff works. The younger generation can't tell us, but maybe something like that. Who saw this? Like, is Oliver watching this video? Is it, is Anthony Taylor watching this video, cracking up? I think those are going to be some of the things that's going to keep coming out as they dig more into this, or they're going to bury this because it's going to come out to a point where you want to bury it rather than open it up more.
Yeah, I feel like what's going to end up happening is probably going to be a 50-50 barrage where half of it's going to be them burying him. And I think the other half is going to be some form of spin to make an excuse. Like, yeah. I won't be shocked at all to find out that he had mental health issues. And I'm not making fun of anyone with mental health issues, but I think they will go there. I think they will claim that during COVID, David Coote was struggling with separation from people. Like, I think they're going to say he was over-medicating with alcohol. He was using painkillers.
You should be in PR, man. That's pretty good.
No, but I think the spin is going to be, though, that he fucked up and he's gone.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a terrible person, and we're not filled with terrible people. And by the way, while you're at it, don't look over here and ask who the rest of the people in the group chat is. They're not other match day officials. They were just other people with mental health issues, or other people with drug problems, or other people with over alcohol, use during COVID. Because clearly this person sat on this, and the fact that they sat on it, right, until the cusp of an international break, coming off the Saturday in which he refereed a match against a club that there is a major questionable decision that he almost didn't make. And the idea that he could be in even more hot water, but he's bailed out because Darwin Nunez finished wrapping around the keeper. Because if he misses that shot or shanks it, the VAR probably makes him send off.
I would think so.
Bailey. But now there's a whole nother can of worms that comes out when he almost didn't even call the foul, let alone give advantage. He actually never gave advantage because he claimed it was a clean foul on Bailey versus Mo.
Yeah, because I never went back, and especially after this came out, and like tried to see if he like just motion like keep play or no.
There was nothing. He actually went like this. Like nothing.
Oh, that's even worse. Yeah, see, I did not go back and see what he did on that one.
It genuinely, it could have been so much worse. I can't believe, I'm actually kind of in a way defending him in any way. Because I don't think yesterday had anything to do with the video. Because I think when that video's out there like that, and if it's true that he was really being blackmailed, then that's a whole nother thing of what was this guy's real motive and was he set up? At the end of the day, this goes back to like my old world of someone's like, well, I didn't know there was a hidden camera there when I said all those racist things.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't care that the camera was hidden. You exposed yourself as a racist. And now we all know it. You didn't deserve to have a camera, and that's illegal. But I'm not in the court of public opinion. I'm just in public opinion. Like, I'm not in the court.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's why, that's what I'm saying, like if he's sitting there with his mate or whatever, like, you and I are sitting, we can make, I don't know, like a joke about somebody's, I don't know why we would make a height joke with two of us, but you know what I mean? Like you can make it, and then you're like, oh, you're like judging their appearance, blah, blah, blah. People like, no, man, we're just like joking and stuff. But then you're recording that and getting that out there. And this is your profession. But like I say, man, the way that video is set up, it's almost like he said it, right? Or he's talked some shit, and then they were like, hold on, we got to record this. And then he popped the camera.
Exactly what happened. I think he was throwing them back. They might have been using some stuff. Who knows? Let's not speculate and get ourselves hooked up with the libel. At this point, he's hanging himself. We don't need to add to it. But
allegedly smashed.
Right. Allegedly, he looked pretty smashed for a guy who's been smashed once or twice on camera. But in all seriousness, there's no reason for him to think he's in the safe place. In my world, he was out with mates. He had some drinks. He talked, and it was probably a couple guys hanging out with the PGMOL ref. They got him back to the flat after for a few more pops and maybe a little smoke. And then before you know it, someone was like, this dude will say anything. Let's ask him questions like an interview.
Yep.
And then they put a camera in his face and he was like, oh, yeah, that cunt, blah, blah, blah. And then he makes the Milner comment and shows the picture of Milner. And like the whole time I'm thinking to myself, if I'm James Milner, I'm thinking to myself, man, that is one more freaking feather in the cap of James Milner. I helped end David Coote's career. I'm going down as the greatest Premier League player of all time.
That's the problem that like worries me. I mean, and I've seen like things like this in the past, and that's what I was referring to. Like I've had it where, like a guy is going around, like I worked in retail, so a guy is going around showing the new guy the store, and then they make an inside joke with one of the guys as he's walking around, and himself was Hispanic, the other guy is African American, and they kind of go back and forth at each other, like stereotype, like they're taking it as banter and just a joke, but it can be taken out of context, and obviously 100%. The third person takes it out of context. I almost like that third person took it out of context and all that kind of stuff. That was a drama by itself, but I feel like this is a case where that person knew exactly, hey, that was definitely not appropriate. Let's get more stuff. Like, let's get this on tape. I guess the question now is, how much more stuff is on tape? Because a guy doing that is not going to be satisfied with a 60-second clip while he's got Coote going off on everybody over there. So is there more on there? And two, like we said, hey, whoever saw this video is not going to be seen. Well, that guy knows who saw this video as well. If he was blackmailing regarding releasing the video, what's him not releasing? Yeah, by the way, here's our Snapchat private group, and it's Taylor and Oliver and all those people laughing, putting laughing emojis on the video or something like that. And then you're another can of worms. So I feel like either they're going to have to make this go away really fast and act fast and say he's gone. There was no excuse and we got rid of him. Let's move on. Because I think the more it sticks around and people start peeling the levels, as Costanza says, it's like an onion. The more you let, the more it stinks is what's going to happen.
Every layer, keep pulling that layer back and your eyes water more, and you keep doing it because you can't stop until you see the train wreck. And I think you're right. I think that's what is coming. I expect this, like I said, I expect there to be some excuse making. I expect there to be some spin. Then I expect there to be a guy that has to go away and never be seen for again. Kind of like Bobby Madley was years ago when he just kind of fell off and then he wasn't there anymore. And I think David Coote will kind of be the guy that goes away, probably so we don't point the fingers at all the other refs. I hope it isn't a group chat of all the referees, because this league doesn't need any more excuse making. This league doesn't need any more, plights on its referees. I think it's one of the things Goldbridge actually gets right when he says it's the best league in the world with the worst officiating and the worst leaders running it, which is like shocking that you could get to the best by having all the worst around you.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Despite the worst around you. So Speaking of those officials, one thing we do every week here is we talk about the VAR decisions of the week, and we touched on one already. The kind of first and major talking point of the week, obviously, being the possible red card for Salah or Bailey against Salah. I know you said you haven't gone back and looked at it. Personally, I think it gets bailed out by the fact that Nunez makes the goal. And
Yes.
after that Champions League final, I think it was I think it was Barcelona Arsenal in like '06 or whatever, where the goalie gets sent off, but the Barcelona guy scores the goal. And later on, the ref says, if I could do it all over again, I would have just booked him. And then the big match law people are like, well, that would have been the wrong decision. And then they changed the law because of
Yes.
it for the like double jeopardy. So do you have an issue with that rule outside of it being David Coote and looking like he was inept as usual? Do you think in that instance, that natural justice happened? Liverpool had a chance to score. Mo gets taken down. Darwin takes the ball off, beats the keeper, scores a goal. You're up 1-0. Everything's fair. Or do you think there should be some form of retroaction or retribution there to the player and or to the team as far as Villa goes?
There should be. I understand the double jeopardy thing, and I'm okay with that. I get that because yes, it is a double whammy, and I understand that. Okay, I'll buy that, but I feel like we do this a lot. I actually talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we played against Chelsea, where I can't remember who it was. Why did I forget the kid's name? The right back. Chelsea's right back.
Gusto or Cucurella?
No, the right back. Oh, what the hell? Always injured. God damn it.
Reece James.
Yes. He trips Mo. Mo keeps going. Like he basically trips Mo on purpose. Mo keeps going and the play goes on. See, I feel like when you have somebody pulling you, it should be a yellow card. I like the fact that you're playing advantage and you're letting the game keep going, but you got to come back and give that yellow card because that is because you tried and that's what you sucked at basically doing an intentional foul, but you attempted an intentional foul. That's almost like swinging at somebody but missing. Doesn't matter. You swung at him already. So you were trying to punch him. The fact that you did not connect does not excuse you swinging at that person. So that's why I thought, I know the red card would have been harsh, but it should have been gone back and been a yellow card. But then again, I guess if it wasn't calling it a foul, I wasn't going to show it a yellow card. And that's not going to go to VAR just because we scored.
I think that was what the primary issue was that because he didn't call it anything originally on the field, he couldn't really go back and do anything with VAR. What about the Coote potential penalty on Watkins? I thought this was actually good refereeing by Coote.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a penalty. That's basically, having been there, that's a little dude against a Konate is what it is. Honestly, if any call that I felt out of that game went our way and I did not see it going our way, is the Bradley pull.
I was just going to ask you.
When we were watching that, we were watching in a coffee shop with Layla on the phone in Milwaukee, and we were like, ugh, that's going to come back. Like the moment it went and they were checking it, I'm like, that's going to be a penalty. Because he is pulling, and I realize both of them are pulling each other and stuff, but he's pulling to the point where he spins the guy, and the ball is going there. If the ball was going to the back post and they're tussling around in the front post, that's fine. But the ball is going there. We're clearing it because that guy is suddenly out of the picture because he's spun out of it. I was honestly shocked that did not come back as a penalty from the review.
Yeah, that one surprised me a little bit, I'll be honest. I didn't think the Coote one, I thought it's funny. I understood why it wasn't a penalty. Because to your point, it's a big guy running into a little guy, and then, of course, Coote does the Coote thing and gives the foul on Watkins. Doesn't call embellishment, doesn't call a dive.
I didn't get that.
Just gives him a foul. And I'm like, what's going on? The best thing he could have done, the ball is being rolled back to Kelleher. Just let play go on.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he loses me more than even his stupid face or his terrible. Like,
We just talked about this.
I can get past the foul with Virgil against Pickford. Because I think in that moment you can make that mistake. And then when it was weird, it was COVID times, there was no one in the crowd. I do think those things actually affected match officials at times. Like, things impacted how officials responded with the sound and the noise, and then just dealing with things. Like, and I'm not making an excuse because I think it should have been a red card. But ultimately, when you look at how he handles himself on the pitch, 9 times out of 10, I feel like he gets every 50-50 call wrong. And that to me is a person who doesn't have confidence or self-conviction in like what they're actually seeing, and referees with too much emotion. And maybe it's that type of emotion that allows you to get pinned up at 4 a.m. on a couch with a guy who's not really your mate and say shit the way he did on camera.
I was going to say, does it make more sense now that something, I mean, especially if this comes out to be a bigger deal, that he is overthinking some of the decisions he's making on the pitch? Because, I mean, I talk about this on our shows about like the Turkish league and stuff like that. There's so much going on up there. It's not just refereeing. I mean, you know, if you're refereeing, and especially you got to make quick decisions on the spot, you got to have a clear mind. If you don't have a clear mind and you're rethinking everything, that's when you start screwing things up, because you're not only that, you're late making decisions, you're slow making decisions and stuff. So it is going to be really interesting, man, what else comes out of this. I know it's everywhere right now, and some of the information is not very accurate. But like I say, I really think this is something that PGMO has to get it done and over with during this international break. So within a week, you know, by the time you guys record this next week, I think we're going to know a lot more about this whole ordeal.
So I want to quickly ask you about this one, then we'll go on to look at the matches and the table, because it was just such a big week in the Premier League. But the Crystal Palace match, the second goal, Emile Smith-Rowe scores. Palace is extremely upset about this decision. Their stadium is basically, they claim, the worst in the Premier League when it comes to offside VAR decisions, which is where we had that Leicester thing a few weeks back where they claimed that the guy was onside and it was proved to be offside, because of the angles of how Selhurst Park is built. So this is also kind of feeding into the semi-automated offsides question, which is why I wanted to get to it quickly. We still don't have semi-automated offsides because the league claims they can't work out the kinks. Yet we had a major issue this weekend in Spain where Barcelona lost a match where it's basically been proven that Lewandowski was onside. But semi-automated offside showed him as offside. Do you believe that England will at any point this season have that technology in place? And do you think they should, seeing to the fact that we're 11 match weeks in and we haven't used it yet? Should they just scrap it and say, let's wait till next August and start it when all 38 match weeks are utilizing it?
If you asked me like 3-4 weeks ago, I would have said like, oh, in January or something like that, they might add it and be ready to go. But especially with that Barcelona thing, and there's a couple of other instances like in like the Dutch league and stuff like that, I feel like they're going to be like, nope, this thing is not ready yet. Should they add it? Yes, because I think a slightly faulty line is a lot better than do like Oliver or Coote trying to freaking like move it with the mouse and setting the line. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I have more faith in a system that occasionally has a glitch than, you know, the human version of glitch, like Oliver running like the air over there. So,
yeah, I have more faith in your automated glitches than the ones that you program yourself by giving us the English PGMOL to run this.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at the Premier League on the weekend. It was a crazy weekend, highlighted by some big results. Liverpool taking care of business against Aston Villa to stay top of the table. Brighton with a big come-from-behind victory over Man City, losing their 4th in a row, 2nd Premier League match, and 4th in 3 different competitions, which is kind of crazy in itself to think that they lost. And then, of course, you have Newcastle come from behind victory against Forest. Ipswich beating Tottenham at home. United ending the Van Nistelrooy era with a victory. And, of course, the match of the weekend on paper turned out to be, in my opinion, kind of a dreb 1-1 draw between Arsenal and Chelsea. So let's start with Arsenal and Chelsea. I'm not going to ask you to serve up Timucin's blame pie. I got a feeling we might serve a little bit of that during the 300th episode. So in this instance, though, who was that point more important for, Chelsea or Arsenal?
I think Chelsea will be happy with what they got out of that. I don't see how Arsenal is happy. The only thing Arsenal fans are, I think, happy about is seeing Odegaard back out there at his best and everybody is back, kind of a thing. So hopefully they can stop crying about like injuries. But I think, at points now, I mean, you're 9 points behind, and I realize they're a bit more established and everything like that. But I know I'm speaking for myself. If the situation was reversed, we were kind of like chatting about this morning. If Arsenal was 9 points ahead of us, I would go back to plan B and say, hey, new manager, let's get the top 4. I would not still hold a lot of hope. I think what they got going for Arsenal is everybody's back. They did play the second half. I mean, if somebody deserved the win a bit more, you could say Arsenal, but at the end of the day, it's 1-1. But I think what they can do is look at this next group of games and say, hey, we can go on a run over here, especially in the Premier League, and win 5-6 in a row, and then hope that Liverpool and City, mainly Liverpool, loses points, especially if we're going to play City and stuff like that as well. The catch with that is, if we learned anything over the last 3-4 weeks, anybody who was saying, oh, Liverpool's schedule was so easy in the beginning went and lost points to those easy teams. This is still the Premier League, especially when you go away. There is really no easy fixtures. So can Arsenal go on like a City-like run of, 14, 16 wins? I just don't see it, and I feel like that's what it will take. But I noticed that Arsenal fans are a bit more optimistic than they were last week somehow, even though the point difference got like more, mainly because they saw everybody healthy and they liked how Arsenal played after playing 2-3 games back-to-back, including in Europe, where they were like really poor.
Really poor. Really, really poor in Europe. That's, I would agree with completely. I think you're spot on about Odegaard being back and that changing their temperament, because I think they know that when Odegaard's on the pitch, the tempo never drops off.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing they missed the most when he was gone. I forget who it was. Maybe it was the Anfield Wrap. One of the post matches, they made a comment about how like they actually think that Arsenal probably goes on to win the match against Liverpool, the 2-2 draw, even after succumbing multiple leads, if Odegaard's still on the pitch, if he's playing that day, because he's pushing them to keep going and he's the captain. And they almost were like, all right. They pegged us back twice. Let's make sure we don't lose this.
Yep.
And I get that. What I will say about why Arsenal supporters feel better is, and I think this is kind of a shot at us, and maybe this is the inferior Liverpool supporter in me coming out. I think if City were up 9 points on Arsenal right now, Arsenal supporters wouldn't be saying they feel good. But I think part of the reason Arsenal supporters feel better this Monday morning coming off a draw than last week coming off a loss is City lost again. And in their mind, they're like, we're only 4 behind City. Yes, we're 9 behind Liverpool, but we expect City to catch Liverpool because we expect City to win this league. So therefore, we're really just 4 off the lead. And I think it's that type of like mentality. And I think that's where Liverpool, over this next 2 to 3 weeks leading up to the Christmas break, I think can really change the narrative here. Because to your point, you made a great point. I think it was earlier this week, or maybe it was in our Discord chat, where you made the comment about how, I can't wait until now that we've won all these matches. They're going to say, oh, but they hadn't played anyone. And now that we've played everyone, they're going to be like, well, they still need to prove it. Right? Like when we had played nobody was no big deal. Since that point that we started playing people in that first test match against Chelsea, we played Chelsea, Leipzig, Leverkusen, Brighton twice, Arsenal, and Villa.
I mean,
And
what else do you want, right? And I think
and
that's the thing.
6
I agree with
wins
you,
in
though.
a
I think
row.
that's a good point. They are looking at City and they feel like they're only 4 points off. But I think at some point you got to come to a realization and be like, I don't know. These guys might be for real. I'm not even convinced. I think here's another thing. Nobody seems very convincing when they win. I think the way that Liverpool plays now, it's very methodical and it's very professional. It's like a 2-0 win against like a tough opponent. Yeah, but they struggled at times. Yeah, but they got the 3 points, and that's really all that matters at the end of it. Like, they know how to win games. And who's to say I don't have faith in Arsenal going on a run of like 12, 14 games and winning all of them and waiting for Liverpool to drop like 3 games and stuff. Not to mention, they're only going to play us once, and that's going to be at Anfield. So
Correct.
I think that's another thing. But having said that, I'm not like, oh, the title is ours and stuff like that. It's way too early. But then again, we do keep saying this. It's not that early. We're almost a third of a way in. So it's not that early. And you can kind of tell some things. And this is a team in Liverpool that made no additions or improvements to their squad. So is there another level to this team? This team was meant to struggle up until now, really, because it was a new manager, new system, blah, blah, blah. We didn't have any add-ons and stuff like that. I mean, now are they going to only keep getting better and maybe make some additions that fit Slot and what Slot wants in like January? Because then this Liverpool team can go on a run that now people might be expecting. Nobody was expecting that. Heck, we weren't expecting this. So...
No, I have to say it'll be interesting to see, and we have plenty of time to talk or not talk about transfers in January because you know how much we love talking about transfers. But it is, you make a comment though how it's we are 11 matches in. It's almost a third way through the season. So we usually start at the top of the table. We've done a lot of talking about the teams at the top so far. So I thought we'd look at the bottom because as bunched up as the top is, so is the bottom. I wish I could say that everyone from 13 down are in a relegation scrap. I really do, because it would just be fun to say. But I don't genuinely believe that because I think United is actually going to go on a run over the next few matches. I do think they're going to get a new manager bounce. I think you even saw from Bruno Fernandes, the dog that he is, great performance on the weekend that he put in against Leicester. I think he's going to be a catalyst for all the good things that Amorim brings in there. And he's probably going to build the team around him. And I think they'll figure out ways to make some things work. So I do believe everyone from West Ham down is a legitimate relegation.
Yes.
They are in a legit relegation fight. If I asked you right now, which of these 3 teams from West Ham to Southampton will be plying their trade in the championship next year, which 3 do you think go and why?
Ipswich, Palace, Southampton. Southampton, because they're Southampton, and it's just not looking good. And they're kind of like too stubborn in what they're doing. Reminds me of Burnley, right? We could just see the writing on the wall. Everybody could see the writing on the wall except the club, and they kept going at it. I feel like Wolves has talent to get them goals, to get them points, and come out of there. And Ipswich, I know they won this week, but I mean, that's not going to happen regularly. I don't think they have the squad to be able to keep up. They're almost like just happy to be here kind of an attitude. And I think the reason we see this very big bunch over here is mainly due to like what we were talking about earlier. Nobody up top looks very convincing. So you have an Ipswich suddenly get like 3 points from like a Spurs game away that you would have never been like, you were like, if you're Ipswich and you're looking at your schedule, you did not circle that Tottenham game as this is where we can get some points.
Our first win. Our first Premier League win ever.
So, I mean, you're not going to do that. So I feel like some of the inconsistencies on top is kind of letting like weird results happen along the bottom where people are getting some like Crystal Palace and stuff, like getting some weird like 3 points. So that's why I think everybody is bunched up. But based on talent, and I usually go when I look at this, being able to score goals, because that's what gets you points. And I think that's why Wolves will get out of there. But I think Ipswich, Palace, and Southampton, I just don't see them making it.
Yeah, I don't blame you on those shouts. I think Southampton makes the most sense. And, I'm sure Russell Martin is probably thinking to himself, hey, if I stick to my principles the way that Vincent Kompany did and I get myself the Real Madrid job next year, all is good. Because that guy got Bayern and they're the favorites in the Bundesliga. And that guy was the Burnley manager that got them relegated. I'm just kidding, because in classic fashion, he'll probably be stupid enough to win the Bundesliga and then take the City job and then get relegated again. But what's funny is when I look at this, I think West Ham is one move away from being a top half team table. And I know it sounds crazy. I think West Ham could fire Lopetegui tomorrow and hire a Premier League manager who just works with young players. Like they could hire a Graham Potter type, a program type manager. They could go to Marseille and take De Zerbi and get him out of his hell because he hates it in the French league. He's already claiming he's going to quit, right? I think a guy like De Zerbi goes to West Ham and gets to work with that attack, Somerville, Paqueta, Bowen, that setup in London with that money. And I think they immediately just go on a run. And before you know it, they're ahead of Bournemouth, Brentford, because I think they have talent. I think Leicester, to me, is the one that is so weird. Because to me, Leicester doesn't look any better than Southampton or Ipswich. But Jamie Vardy somehow at 155 is still scoring enough goals.
Yep.
But to your point, do those goals dry up when the 38-year-old can't keep up in the second half of the season? And does Leicester have enough? I still think they could get dragged in. The scariest thing is, I think Everton is slotted in 16th place. And I think they'll finish in 16th place.
Yes.
But I have the least fear of any of those teams in Everton. Because I think they have the type of team that can do it. I think they have the supporters that can handle it. And I think they have the one manager in that whole group that's prepared for this fight and ready to win the fight and stay up. And Sean Dyche, as stupid as that sounds. And you know what? To your point, Gary O'Neill's probably the second best manager in that group to deal with this, as we saw in his year in Bournemouth when he got done dirty. So I agree with you there. Let's jump back, look at the top of the table quickly here. Obviously, we talked about it. It does look good. Liverpool on top, 5 points clear. We didn't talk much about City during this segment. I'll kind of bring it up. Let's talk about them here. Oh, sorry about that. What did I do? See what happens when you have two monitors and you can't see the other one.
Technology and galley is like perfect.
Technology and galley, not things that anybody needs. When we talk about here with City, what is it with them right now? Do you think it's the injuries? Do you think it is the squad? Is it the makeup or like the composition, not the size of the squad, the talent of the squad, but the actual pieces that they didn't replace, like the Alvarez's, the Mahrez. We've talked about these players in the past. Like they let players go and we always commended them for that.
Yep.
But they always seem to replace them with someone a year earlier than they needed to. And I feel like right now they're a player or two short in 2 or 3 key positions. Or am I just being too critical or too excited about that 5-point lead?
Honestly, they're just missing Rodri. I mean, I think if Rodri is there, we're not having the same conversation. I mean, they might not be, the old City. I don't think they were since the beginning of even when Rodri was there, but they still find ways to win games, and you would think they would be definitely in the mix. And I don't consider them out of the mix, don't get me wrong. But I think that's when you talk injuries, it's like one guy being out. I mean, look at what happened to Arsenal when Odegaard was out. Look at what can happen to Liverpool if, like, God forbid, Mo or Van Dijk or somebody was out. So, like, one injury, yes, it's only one person, but it affects a lot. And I think, he was the one that kind of kept everything together. There's still a lot of talent on that squad, but, it's just not the same. More importantly, I think what has happened, and this is kind of like probably the biggest thing, the biggest issue for City is they don't have. When I looked at that game and City was up, because I was driving and I was occasionally checking the score, they were up, and I was like, damn, they got out. I didn't think, they turned it around. In the past, once they took the leads, it was pretty much a done deal, right? Now, I think even when they do take the leads, they have given up leads, and they have gotten, like, they're letting goals in that they did not do as much as before, or even if they did, they had 5 already, so it didn't matter. I think what happens now is once you open that door to teams, it's very hard to close that door back. It's almost like, being undefeated at home. You win like 15 in a row. Everybody comes there shaking. Once you lose a couple, that shaking gets a bit less because that aura is not there. I think that's one of the biggest things. They're lucky. I think this international break came at a perfect time for them. I was hoping there would be a couple of more fixtures to go in, because it will be interesting to see how they bounce back, and they have a huge game when they come to Anfield. I think before, a draw there would not have been a terrible result, similar to what we said when we went to Emirates, and not a terrible result. But now I think that has changed, and they kind of have to play to get 3 points.
Which is, plays right into our hands in the way that we play these days. If teams are going to come out at us, it just gives us such an advantage. When you look at this top half of the table, obviously there are some surprises from Nottingham Forest in 5th to Brighton in 6th and Fulham in 7th. Newcastle with a big win over Forest, moving them all the way up to 8th. When you look at this from 3rd to 10th, separated by 3 points and little on goal difference, I think you would say you would give the favorite to Arsenal finishing 3rd here overall, just on talent and merit. Which of these teams, from Chelsea all the way to Tottenham, do you believe have the best chance to finish 4th and 5th respectively in this league?
I think right now I would say Chelsea, just because of the amount of talent they have, and they kind of seem to slowly trying to put it together, and they're gaining confidence in themselves, most importantly. Forest, we saw this weekend, they might not be ready for like a long haul run. Brighton and Newcastle, we talked about this on the panel show like 2-3 weeks ago, like which one is the bigger mystery? Like, we really don't know. Like, are they good? Are they bad? Because you kind of see glimpses of both from both of them. And Fulham obviously is like just shocking to be in there. And Villa is not going to be able to keep up with. They just don't have the depth and the experience to keep up with Champions League and the Premier League at the same time. I think that's what they're running into. So I feel like this pretty much stays the way it is, but Arsenal above Chelsea is my guess.
Yeah, I would probably say Arsenal 3rd, Chelsea 4th. I think because I do believe this will be a year where, because I think England is going to do well in all these European competitions, I think we will end up with a 5th team in next year's Champions League. So I think 1st through 5th is going to make Champions League. I think if I were betting right now, I would bet on Newcastle, because I think they have the most talent and the biggest club and maybe the ability to spend. And I think they also have like the upside tick. If Kalen Wilson gets back and him and Isak are scoring goals and you can rotate. I love their midfield with Joe Linton and Gamarish and Tonali. And I think their defense has been hurt all year long, playing almost all second stringers at this point. Yet Eddie Howe still gets destroyed for like getting clean sheets in big spots. If Tottenham had followed up last week's dramatic win against Villa with a resounding win at home against Ipswich, they'd literally be sitting third right now on
Crazy.
goal difference. And then I would have in a minute said, I think Tottenham is right there, third, fourth with Arsenal. It's them and Chelsea. It's going to be a fight, but they just can't show any form of consistency. And the only thing consistent about Tottenham is being inconsistent.
Yes, I think
And
that
I
high
think that
line, they're
is,
due for games like this. Like these games are going to happen to them. The Ipswich like games, it's going to be like Wolves like 4 weeks from now, just because we've been there, done that. That high line is like really risky. So unless you're scoring in bunches, you're going to drop points.
yeah, and I just feel like they're not consistent enough to score in those bunches. What you should do in bunches is get on over to the YouTube page. If you have not yet, subscribe. I don't understand. It is great content. You have Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning shows, 10 Central, or I'm sorry, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Great content. We have our Monday night podcast, the Premier League show that you're watching right now, as well as all of our shorts, pre-match, post-match, the panel show, Thursday night podcast, and occasionally us idiots talk about fantasy and show you how stupid we really are. In all seriousness, I realized this week that my dog is now doing better than me in fantasy. Basically makes me know it's time to retire, people. But for all of us here at American Scouser TV, we appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, and we will be back next week, same time.